of recap on is overall, like what encompasses everything you just went over as the servant leader. And that, that makes it makes a lot of sense to me, like based on my personal experience too, is like, I've always like our internal team, I've always put everybody first before me, before, my income, before the revenue of the company. Like it's been always about them. And because of that, we've had less than, 5 people quit in 5 years, and we have almost 50 people. And it's because we serve people so well. It's like love on them, pay them well, treat them well, and they're not gonna leave, right? And that's ultimately
Right.
what you're
Well,
saying
and
is,
it goes back to that adversarial relationship we talked about
yeah,
earlier.
yeah,
If you've got an adversarial relationship with anybody in your organization, you need to figure that out. You
yeah,
need to figure out, well, something's wrong there.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, absolutely.
we should
And
all be pulling in the same direction.
yeah, yeah, and absolutely, it's good to know too. Um, you were saying that it needs to be authentic, right? There needs to be the desire. If your only motivation is to get the override, man, you're going to experience a lot of pain as a leader, because the people are a pain in the butt a lot of the times,
Oh
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
yeah, it's typical. I
Like
can
a part-time counselor.
imagine.
I mean, it's there's all kinds of things that go into that.
Yeah,
And the people that do it, they typically do love it, and they do
yeah,
it for that reason. You
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. It needs to be authentic. You need to truly care about serving them, and that's ultimately a sacrifice. And
Oh yeah.
a lot of the times at the beginning of a leadership role, not every opportunity, but especially in a commission-based opportunity, a lot of the times that transition to leadership is not only a sacrifice in, your day-to-day job, right? Because you're not just selling in your own little bubble, and now you're serving people. But a lot of the times, as you there's a lull in your income, right? To kind of scale up the sales team and think of it as like an entrepreneur within, the organization that you work with. And this applies to just a regular business owner too. But, when you start to build your team and recruit and onboard and train, and maybe you step away from just full-time selling, sometimes there's an income hit, and you got to be really digging into that position, and it's got to be something you want to do, because you'll get burnt out and hate it, and not like the people, then they'll be quitting and the whole thing will blow up.
100%.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And you said it's you had a line in there: lead people, right? Manage numbers. Love that. And you said something along the lines of, you guys, your leadership team has checks and balances to motivate and inspire your team to do things that they wouldn't do without those systems in place.
Right.
That's gold. Can you maybe throw out like a couple things? Like what does that look like? Those checks and
Well, I
balances.
mean, again, I go back to what I said earlier. Like,
Mhm.
if this person was having all the success that they wanted in their life,
Yeah.
chances are they may not be a part of your organization.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah. Very true.
um, and so they're lacking, in some of those areas, most likely of discipline and personal sacrifice, self motivation. I mean, all these things that these intangibles that really
Yeah.
help people to be successful at whatever they do.
Yeah.
It's not just selling; it's anything,
Yeah.
and that's why you kind of look for signs that maybe it's there. In your recruiting process, like, man, this is it's there somewhere. At one time, they did this or they did that, or they were the high school quarterback, won a state championship, and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
is gold.
Yeah.
Um, so you want to make sure that your system that you're putting these people in is
Hmm.
going to nurture those things.
Yes.
Is going to teach them those things and hold them accountable for doing those things, because ultimately without those things you can't be successful
Yeah.
as a commission sales rep or as an independent rep or as a business owner, period.
Yeah.
And a big mistake I think a lot of people make is when they recruit people, they just expect them to have those things and to know
Yeah.
those things. And
Yeah. No.
they don't. And so you spend all your time just focusing on teaching them processes and systems of what you do.
Hmm.
And you didn't teach them any of these other things that are so important, like
Yeah.
vision, goal setting, and
Yeah.
time management skills, and all this stuff. You're going to really struggle.
Yeah. I was just thinking, I'm gonna plug this video into, I'm redoing Sales Recruiting University online. I'm like, I want every client that comes into our service to watch this video, so they can like, this is a lot of this is gold. You're totally on point. So you have ultimately for you, obviously these are really amazing systems at scale too, managing as big of a sales force as that you have. So you have a sales force, to probably track the basic things like leads and pitches and close and calls and those kind of things, right? And that's the systems those are systems to track numbers. But then you're also leading the people, and that's the more intimate relational stuff. Like you hire me, you understand exactly what I want to accomplish in the next 12 months, 5 years, 10 years. And I get my own custom roadmap that you really understand as my leader. So you can talk about those things with me and help me understand where I'm at to keep me on track with my original commitments and goals that I said, yes, Kevin, you can hold me accountable to these things. I really want to accomplish them.
100%.
Right?
Yeah, and we want you to pick your path. We're not going to pick it
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
We literally we're going to lay it out there and say, okay, here's X, Y, and Z. You choose
Yeah.
which path is appropriate for you. What can you commit to? That's the most important thing, right?
Yeah.
And then we're going to give you a structure to achieve that. So you need to make X amount of calls. You need to do this, 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 and this, to achieve that. And in fact, we break the numbers down to ridiculousness. I mean, we reverse engineer the crap out of everything. So
Yeah.
like we know that it takes 32 contacts to generate a sale, you know.
Mhm.
So if somebody says I want to make X amount of dollars, like, oh, that's 722 contacts. So
That's
that's what you
awesome.
need to commit to,
That's
right?
awesome.
And we help them build out a schedule
Hmm.
each week, you know, do this, this, and this during these times.
Yeah.
And then you have that accountability there to
Yeah.
sort of hold them accountable to what they said they were going to do.
Yeah.
We use a really cool program that tracks all their activities. So we know every week how many calls, how many contacts, how many appointments, how many referral partners they developed, social media posts, networking events they attended, I mean, everything. And they have a score that they're working towards
Yeah.
every week. And
That's
so
awesome.
then it's pretty easy when I sit down with you, I mean, I pull up your sales screen
Yeah.
and I say, Ryan, you told me you wanted to do this. This is what you wanted to accomplish because you wanted your wife to be able to quit her job, and stay home with the kids.
Yeah.
That was your real reason for wanting to do this. But man, I got to tell you, your level of activity is not, reflecting what you're wanting to accomplish. So, I mean, you tell me, do we need to adjust,
Hmm.
what you want to accomplish?
Yeah.
Or are
Yeah.
you willing to put forth a little more effort?
Yeah. See that, and that, for a leader, that simple thing, right? That's like, knowing those specific details is caring at scale, right? So you're not wasting all this time. And another thing that came to mind too is like, Kevin works for one of the largest, best insurance companies, I think, on the planet, right? And he's been doing this for 24 years. A lot of you are watching this and you're like, well, I don't have the leader. I don't have the systems. I don't have the people yet. I can't delegate. I don't have the management experience. I don't have the systems to track the numbers. Well, he didn't have those stuff. He didn't have that stuff at the beginning too, right? So you gotta start somewhere and implement, and then look at this as a long-term gain. Now, like you've been doing it for over a couple decades, everything that you've done and learned, has it been worth it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
worth it, right?
Yeah,
But
I mean, I've been able to accomplish things personally and professionally. I wouldn't, if you had told
yeah,
me 20 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, right. Come on, man.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. But so once you have, from a management perspective, which is so important, once you have the systems in place, which don't always happen when you start building your team, sometimes you got to work through the kinks, and maybe it takes 3 to 6+ months to get everything really dialed so that you can see the numbers. But once you have those things and you're having your one-on-ones and those conversations with reps, you have visibility into the numbers, and that's a quick thing. You're not wasting a ton of time there. And the more intimate kind of, strategic, stuff like Kevin was talking about is, hey, this is really what you committed to and what you wanted to accomplish, but we're on track for 70% of that. Like, what's going on? Do we need to change something? Is something going on outside of work, inside of work? Like, how can we serve you to, be on track with your goals, or maybe change your goals? And all that he had to do at the beginning of the onboarding process, which was get clear on what the person wanted, right?
Yep.
And that's not a crazy time investment. That's just paying attention to your people, sitting down with them during the onboarding process, What is it that you want to accomplish? Let's get that on paper. He has those notes somewhere in the way that he manages, and then he can manage the numbers at scales. He shows up to his meeting, knows the numbers, knows the intimate things of that person, even if he's managing a ton of people, because he's organized, and he can have those deep conversations and lead at scale in a way that most organizations don't do.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It's a totally different ball game than you telling me this is how much I need you to sell this year.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.